The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Hello, welcome to Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach. With me, as always, is Marco Patrick Hicks.
Hello.
Fresh off a burglary attempt, Matt Brandenburg.
Hey, I survived.
And
We should clarify that.
before we clarify, still with us is Vietnamese Mist.
Hey!
You want me to clarify? I wasn't
was the burgled, not the burglar.
I was not the burglar.
Yeah, he was
not the I was not the hamburglar. I was the one. And all they literally took was prescription sunglasses and an old crusty bike.
That reminds me of like one time before I went to, it was the year I went to China. I was down in Providence for a weekend to two concerts, and I get back in my car, and I'm like, oh, it's drafty in here.
Oh, no.
And I look at the back seat, and it's covered in glass.
Oh.
And I'm like, shit, someone stole my shit. And then I'm like, but what did they steal? Because I had nothing in my car to steal. So I went back into my friend's house. I got garbage bags. I taped up my window. Drove back home. Realized I took my laptop bag.
Oh.
But it wasn't my laptop. It was my paladin for Dungeons and Dragons. Because all I had in that bag was my Dungeons and Dragons character sheet and my dice.
Amazing.
Early in our courtship, my wife and I went to go see Seinfeld at the Fox Theater in Detroit. And we parked a couple spots away from the attendance booth, went in, saw the show, came back out. Car was broken into.
Oh.
So we went around to the front of the Fox Theater because there were police stationed there and said, hey, our car got broken into. And the cop just looks at us, laughs, and says, well, obviously we're not going to catch him, and took off.
Wow.
Because it's Detroit and cops are really super fucking useful and should definitely not be defunded because they're so vital.
Amazing.
So that was fun. That was a really great evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun.
It's at least happened once in our lifetimes.
It's funny because they didn't take any of my CDs or my cool like little Star Wars little rear view hanging thing, and they didn't take any of the good stuff. They literally took my prescription sunglasses.
Well, it's because they don't like scum, Matt.
Yeah, right? I was going to say, all those CDs were just sitting in there. None of my kid toys, everything was still there.
Maybe they didn't realize they broke into the wrong house.
They probably did. They're like, oh, crap.
Well, let's just take something just out of spite.
Yeah, this will teach them.
Well, I hope those prescription sunglasses gives them a really bad headache. I hope they get a migraine from it.
I hope it. Yeah, exactly. And the spiders in the bike, I hope they bit them.
I hope so.
Yeah, hope so too. Well,
I
speaking...
hope maybe the spider will bite them and like burrow into their arm and lay eggs.
It would be pretty awesome. And man, that bike.
We think alike, Mike. That's exactly what I was going to suggest.
Oh man, it was a crappy bike. Like I was getting ready to get rid of it, so I guess they did a favor. But I like moved some stuff in the garage literally this week, and I like went to touch it, and it was just coated in spider webs. I was like, that's all right. So
silver lining, man.
Yeah,
exactly. There's always the upside to the situation.
Exactly.
The only downside to any situation is if you have to summon the entities from Recitation of the First Feeding. Almost said it wrong, but I didn't.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Good job.
Today's story is Recitation of the First Feeding by Hailey Piper. which you can
Pronunciation
read.
guide was paying off.
Recitation.
Recitation. That's right. Good job.
Yeah.
Yay.
The Unfortunate Elements of My Anatomy, which is Hailey Piper's short story collection.
Which looks really good. I need to read the rest of this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Tons of great short stories in here. Hailey Piper is a really fantastic author,
Yes.
and I'm
Yeah,
happy she's taking off.
she's becoming like one of my favorite queer horror authors.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I still have her. Was it the Benny Hill? Was it the Cannibal King one?
Yeah, that's Benny Hill Cannibal King.
Was it
Yeah, I
Benny
have-
Rose?
I thought
Benny Rose.
Benny Rose.
Is that
Benny Hill's
okay?
the
Benny
British
Hill
comedian.
is the.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Benny Hill, slightly different.
But wouldn't it be
Little
funny
bit.
if he was a Cannibal King?
It would have.
I mean, I'm not discounting that he, in fact, was a cannibal, but
I mean, he could have been.
as far as the
never know.
TV show, it's a little bit different of a take.
Very much of a different of a take.
You heard it here first, folks. Benny Hill was a cannibal.
Well, he's dead. It's not like he can sue us. He is
That's
dead,
true.
right?
I don't know. You'll find out. You'll wake in the
Yeah,
middle of the
'cause-
night. You'll start hearing yakety sax play all slow and then really fast. And he'll come out of one door and then he'll go out another door like Scooby Doo, and then you'll be eaten.
Okay, one of us need to write this.
Yes.
Will there at least be the buxom lady in the denim shorts? And
No, it'll be
Happy-
him as the buxom lady.
oh, that's not fun.
Oh, Benny Hill. So the 60s were a funny time.
Yes, they were.
Yes.
I don't know what my parents were thinking, letting me watch that as like a 5-year-old.
Right?
Yeah, you watch it now, and that stuff's not appropriate.
Yeah,
No, I think
but
it's just
that was
music.
yeah. I mean, that was a kids show for us growing up. It was like,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there are a lot of things that were labeled as kids show. Like I saw one person on Twitter, like, "Hey, I decided to let my 13-year-old daughter watch, or 12-year-old daughter watch 16 Candles." It's not
God.
PG.
No.
That's kind of like when I was like 6 or 7, and my dad had me watch Halloween.
Yeah.
Probably explains a
old-
lot now.
Good
Yeah.
times.
Yep.
growing up in the 80s, good old parents letting us be babysat by the TV.
Yeah. You can watch
5,
whatever.
6, 8 years old watching RoboCop and Benny Hill.
Such a good combo.
That's a great
A
combo.
little bit of gratuitous, sexual
Everything.
violation over there, and a lot of gratuitous violence over there.
There's gratuitous everything.
Yep.
You know what could have used some more gratuity?
Uh-oh.
The Suicide Squad.
Yes.
I haven't watched it
It
yet.
wasn't.
No spoilers.
Okay, I
No
won't spoil
spoilers,
it for
but-
Mike.
But you said it needed more.
I think it could have. I think it could have had a bit more gratuitous score,
I don't know. I think it was right where it needed to be.
but it was a lot of fun either
The
way.
trailer
It's a
made it
lot
look
better
like it-
than. It's a lot better than the first one, or like the previous one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
a lot better than the last Suicide Squad movie.
And was the music on point this
Oh
time?
God, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's James Gunn, so he just killed it with the music throughout the whole thing. I enjoyed it a ton. I mean, it's total. I'm happy is DC was just like, do whatever the hell you want. Be like,
Yeah,
we stole you from Marvel, and I know he's back to Marvel now, but at the time, and they're like, just go for it. And he's like, all right, I'm going to take all my old trauma experience and put it into this movie.
Oh, man.
yeah.
I gotta
it's
watch this soon.
It's a wild movie. It's a lot of fun.
There are some, like, when you're watching it, you're just like, holy crap, they're just going for it.
The WB DC conglomerate has kind of changed their tune since Zack Snyder. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do anything, Zack Snyder. James Gunn, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, what? How did you do this 180? Like, what the hell's
Yeah.
going on here?
Because they're really desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm desperate too. Give me that Nightmare movie, God damn it.
and James Gunn did a really great job in this movie. Like the action's on point.
Yes.
It has a good heart in the middle of it as well. Like the emotional center of the movie is pretty solid. Some great effects.
Yeah.
There's so many villains.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many villains. I mean,
Lots
I
of
haven't even
carnage.
seen the movie, but like, there's so many villains in it.
And there's
Michael Rooker. Michael Rooker's in it, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love that
That's
guy.
always good.
That guy's my favorite.
Just watch the movie. I'll be excited to hear what you guys think about that.
Okay. I think
All
he's
right.
not in it much.
But
Is it gonna be like the Ryan Reynolds cameo in Life?
not confirming nor denying any of this.
Spoilers for Life if you haven't seen that one.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna go any further than that, but I love that. I love that part in Life.
Oh man.
Still got top billing for that one too, Ryan Reynolds. did.
Yeah, it is.
It was like, have you seen Lucky Number 11?
Yeah,
No.
I
It
love
was
that
like
movie.
Ben Affleck had top billing in Lucky Number 11. He was killed in the first like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Gotta bring him in, here's the name of somebody big, and then
Yeah.
you're not gonna see him anymore. But
I will say the Suicide Squad was a lot of fun. You're going to like all the gore, Mike.
Yeah, I'm ready for King Shark, man.
he was awesome. I like, as I was watching it, I was like, I want to be his best friend because he's just this big goofy guy, and he's got these big shark eyes that are like puppy eyes.
I think that's what James Gunn is really good with. He can like really make you care for the animals in his movies.
Yeah.
I mean, in
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy, I couldn't care less about the others, but I was like, Rocket, if you hurt that little thing, I will
Yes.
come and kill you.
100%.
I mean,
yeah.
King Shark's one of my favorite DC characters anyway.
I haven't actually read anything with him, but I loved him in
I
there.
didn't even know he existed until I saw
Yeah.
the trailer. I'm like, wait, there's a... Oh, I mean, they had a crocodile, so of course they would add a chaos.
Yeah.
He's actually a Superman villain.
Oh.
I thought he was
he's-
the Batman rogue for some reason. Or
Well, he
the
ended up being
Flash.
on the Batman's Rogues Gallery too.
Okay.
In the comics, he was originally really evil, and then over time, they've kind of made him more comedic.
Yeah.
I
Like
was
the stuff
gonna
with the
ask you,
Suicide
like-
Squad is more comedic stuff.
Okay. I was going to ask if there was much overlap between the comic and the movie character.
I mean, the movie character is a bit more stupid than he is in the comic.
Okay.
I think like a good portrayal of King Shark is the Harley Quinn cartoon.
I still haven't seen that yet either.
No,
It's really good. It seems like it will be stupid. It's meant for adults. It's pretty much Harley Quinn and the Joker break up, and the first season is about Harley Quinn trying to become an independent person and be known for herself, not as the Joker's girlfriend. And she gets a
So-
squad together with Poison Ivy, Dr.
of Prey.
Psycho, and King Shark.
So it's not Birds of Prey.
No, it's not Birds of Prey. It came out before Birds of Prey came out.
Huh.
And her squad's, it's Poison Ivy, Dr. Psycho, who's a misogynist, really bad misogynist in this
Of
one.
course.
Even the villains don't like him because he called Wonder Woman the C word. So no one wants to touch him. They're like, Clayface, who in this one is a thespian,
Nice.
and King Shark.
Oh, that's perfect.
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, Clayface did start as an actor.
This is true.
And they have what's his face? The Chris Maloney voices Commissioner Gordon.
Oh, nice.
It's hilarious.
I
Like
can
it's
see
a
that working.
it's a really good cartoon.
Cool.
But yeah, no, King Shark is hilarious in this movie too.
Yeah, he is amazing. Yeah, so it's a great movie. Definitely check it out. It's got, the action is awesome. It's like this great 70s action kind of stuff happening. It was a blast.
I just want to watch this polka dot guy.
Yes, he was great. Just wait. They do some really cool stuff with him.
That's what I'm scared. I was like, that's a villain. Wait, what?
I also love the rivalry between Bloodshot and Peacemaker. That was a lot of fun to watch.
Yes, John C.
I love John Cena.
He is great in this. He's not as wooden as he was in Fast 9. In this one, he pulls off being this crazy person, and it's hilarious.
John Cena, if you give him a comedy, he's really good at comedic timing.
Yes, he is. Have you seen him in Sisters?
Yes, and Trainwreck.
Yes.
Yeah, we were talking about Trainwreck when we watched it.
It's like in Sisters, he just plays this drug dealer, and he's like stone faced the entire time while Tina Fey is like flirting with him, and it's the funniest shit ever.
Like his comedic timing is really good. They try to give him action movies, but like,
yeah, he can
give him some more comedies because he's great with them.
So yes, great movie, highly recommend it.
But Mike, what about you?
Well,
I saw you DNF'd a book this last week.
Yeah. So I did not have as much fun and cannot recommend a title this week because I spent the week struggling with Stephen King's new release, Billy Summers.
Oh, man.
And got up to 30% and quit it because I couldn't stand it anymore. It was driving me up the fucking wall with how boring it was. And every time I put it down, I did not want to pick it back up. I was like, kept going back and forth the whole week. Like, God, do I want to keep trying to get through this? Do I want to read more of it? I should just quit this. I should quit it. And then I would read it. And then I put it down like, why am I fucking wasting my time with this book? And then I'd pick it up and read it some more. And
How
it's like,
big is it?
It's 501 pages.
Okay, even that gives me anxiety.
Yeah. It's a thick book, and it is unnecessarily thick. So, Billy Summers, it's a story of a hitman named Billy Summers who is taking on his last job that's promising a huge payday. So, obviously, right from the start, you've got this big cliche as fuck story point.
Yep.
He has been hired to take out a killer who is currently in Los Angeles awaiting extradition back to this southern state that they're in. You never really know what the state is, just that it's south of the Mississippi. And Billy Summers has been stationed there to wait for the guy to be arraigned at the local courthouse, and he's there under the cover of being a writer. So he's given an office across from the courthouse, so he has a clear shot for whenever this guy shows up. But he has no idea how long it's going to take for this guy to be extradited. It could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months, depending on what the attorney can pull. It could be a year, it could be longer. He doesn't know how long he's going to be there for. So instead of a crime thriller, hard-boiled thriller about a hitman on his last job and waiting for the execution, what we instead get for the 30% that I read is a story of a hitman maintaining his lawn.
Oh, God.
And playing Monopoly with the neighbors' kids and having dinner with the neighbors and going to his office and doing some writing. And the writing is the most interesting part of it, where he is telling like a fictional account of his autobiography. So to set this up, Billy Summers is actually a very intelligent hitman, but he pretends to be stupid for the mafia crime boss that he works for so that they underestimate him. And he takes it as a challenge to write this book as his cover so that he can try to write it as the dumb guy they all think he is because he thinks they're spying on him.
Oh, man.
So he's trying to write this book, which is like if Forrest Gump sat down and wrote a book, this is how it goes. So it's like misspellings and grammatically incorrect. And
oh, jeez.
That would annoy me so much.
So, like, at one point he talks about his mother's abusive boyfriend who would slap him, but he calls it slat, S-L-A-T. Like, he slatted me, and it took me a minute to realize he was trying to get across that he was slapped.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm smacking him. Something like a wooden slat or a fist smack, kind of.
Oh, God.
I will say, I have started Billy Summers.
Yeah.
So far, the only part I've enjoyed is the writing part.
Yeah. That they're too brief. Like, they come up a couple every 50 pages or so. You get like a page or two of the writing. And then it's back to he is having dinner with the neighbors. He's having a beer with the neighbor. He's fertilizing his yard. The lawn is starting to come back, and he can get ready to mow it pretty soon. And he's fantasizing about how he's going to be able to mow the yard in his shorts and T-shirt at the end of August.
You forgot about the housewife who's always baking cookies.
Oh, yeah. Every time you fucking turn around, there's this housewife. She's baking cookies every day.
There's the gay guy who wears a sailor suit to the office.
Yes, who's also a Trump supporter.
Yes.
So, like, he tries to make a Trump supporter, I guess, redemptive, but there's no redeeming Trump supporters, so why even bother?
But, like, why a sailor suit?
Because it's the stereotypical gay guy.
Oh,
He also uses the Epsler a couple times, too, and I was like,
Yeah.
yikes.
So he's got to be, like, a super flamboyant gay man. He's got to be completely out there wearing sailor suits, and he's wearing like when we first meet him, he's dressed kind of like MC Hammer. He's got the big parachute pants on.
my God. Okay. So questions. So he's writing a book, and they gave him an office in like an office building.
Yeah, across from the courthouse.
Who? We're all writers. We know plenty of writers. Is that like a thing that happened?
I mean, I know
nobody's rented me an office in an office building downtown.
nobody's rented me an office either. I mean, I know a few, not personally, but I've heard of writers who rent an office building or an office for writing space.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that sort of makes sense, but
Like, I know Don Winslow has an office like away from his house that has no internet, and like he goes to his office space when he's writing to like get away from everything.
I guess that makes sense. That just seems like
But he also has the money to do that.
yeah.
Our broke asses are staying home to write, and we've got to deal with a million and one distractions. So.
And my other question is like, because I know you didn't finish it, but like, I wonder, is there going to be like a twist? Like, because all of that sounds insane.
So what I have heard about
like
the
horror?
twist. No, it's not horror. It apparently, and this is going to be a spoiler for y'all, so if you haven't read it and you don't want to know any more about it, maybe fast forward a minute or two. From what I have heard, it apparently becomes a very white male author writing a rape revenge fantasy.
Oh,
What?
No. Oh no. Oh no.
So
This gives me the strength to finish this book, Mike. Just let you know. I need to see this for all it is now.
Oh no.
From what I understand, Billy comes across a woman who has just been raped and discarded, and instead of calling the police and helping her, he tells her his life story. And like,
what? Oh my God. Oh, Stephen King, what are you doing?
Stevie, what are you doing, man?
yeah,
Stevie
I am
King.
going to power through this book now. I need to see this for myself.
Yeah, our writer.
It's going to be fun to see all the people on Twitter who are reading it right now and trying to justify that. Because it's fucking Stephen King. And you're like, nope.
I mean, Stephen King's written more mediocre books than like great books, to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
I will say, I know Mike and I had divisive opinions on If It Bleeds, but I think Stephen King recently has been like putting out really good books recently.
Yeah,
so this is surprising me of like how weird this one is compared to his more recent output.
I mean, I dug the hell out of The Outsider, The Institute. Later just came out a few months ago. I thought that one was fantastic. This one is just, it's so mundane and tedious, and I just could not deal with it anymore. I wrote it. I opened it up.
Sorry.
Go on.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I think it's kind of weird that, like you said, later came out just a couple of months ago, then suddenly there's another book by him.
Yeah.
I thought they would like wait maybe a year.
Yeah.
Different publishers.
Yeah, Stephen King, he can put out 2 or 3 books a year.
Yeah. He has another book coming out this year, too.
I was going to say, I thought Well, it's kind of maybe a rarity lately. He's kind of been one a year, but there have been times where he's put out 2 books a year. Usually he gets like a spring release and then a fall release. Usually.
Yeah.
He did later. He has Billy Summers. Then Wendy's Final Task. Gwenny's Final Task is coming out with Richard Chismar and Stephen King.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, well, that comes out in February.
Oh, February. Okay, so
that'll be in
year.
2022. Yeah.
But still, for his age, the dude has crazy output.
Yeah.
Then again, Joyce Carol Oates is like in her 80s, and she's still putting out like 3 books a year.
Yeah. Well, our buddy Ed Lorne tweeted that Uncle Stevie should have left this one in the trunk, and I can't argue that one at all. I think he also said that the acronym of this title sums it up perfectly. Like, this is BS.
Which is funny because my buddy Cody was like hated the first half of this book but loved the rest of it.
Yeah, well, I was not willing to go any farther with. I got too many other things to read to sit there and deal with something that is just boring the shit out of me and feels like a physical chore to pick up and read.
Oh, yeah.
Understandable.
That's what I felt like.
I opened it up on chapter 9, and the first thing I read was like, he's getting ready to barbecue some pork chops. Like, nope, enough of this fucking shit. I can't stand another fucking chapter of this guy in his meal break. Like, Stephen King must have been fucking starving the whole time he wrote this. I don't know if it was some sort of Misery kind of kidnapping where they had him chained to a bed and weren't feeding him until he produced a book. So every fucking chapter in this thing is, he's having some cookies. He's having a steak. He's going out for a beer. He's going to do some pork chops. Like, just what in the fuck are you doing, Steve?
Well, I mean, and it sounds like
he's writing his to-do list.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like it sounds like and maybe not him, but somebody doing like this thing where like halfway through it, like a Gone Girl thing or something, where halfway through we find out like either this is the fake book and he's trying to tell like a secret code, or like, I don't know, like he's dead and he's in hell or something. I don't
know. But whatever that twist is, to get to it, you have to slog through a lot of fucking shit to get there, and it isn't worth it.
Yeah.
It pisses me off, this concept of like, you just trudge through that and then you get to like the 85% mark and it gets really good.
Yeah.
I'm like, why don't you just make it good from the beginning? Why the fuck do I have to go through 450 pages to get to a good part? Like,
it's character development, man.
Yeah, it's like the fantasy series. Like, I hate the fantasy genre, and then people will tell me it's like, you got to read this series, it's great, it's fantastic. The first 7 books kind of suck, but like 8 through 25 are really good.
Mike, I have a fantasy author for you, but I'll recommend off the air.
Oh man,
I'm not going to read 7 shitty fantasy books just on the premise that I might like book 8. Fuck you, fuck that, fuck fantasy, and fuck Billy Summers. That's my
I love Mike's rants.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, like, it sounds like it would be cool if he did something like, I don't know if anyone watched A Good Place, but that first season, like, spoiler for the first season, they all think they're in the good place, but it turns out they're not in the good place, and they reveal it kind of at the end of the first season, and the rest is about them trying to figure it out. But
the reveal was one of the best things I've ever seen.
Exactly.
Just Ted Danson's smile and then chuckle, and you're like, what? It's just a slap in the face, and then you're just left open mouth, and he's still slapping your face, and you're like, I don't understand what's happening.
I gotta watch that. I love Kristen Bell, so I need to check out that show.
It's a great series.
You gotta watch, because it's like, I can't, like, the balls on them to do a whole season, and like, I mean, you'll watch the show, but like the fact that Kristen Bell knows she shouldn't be there, but she is, so you're like, the whole season you're like trying to see her figure it out and get her way, either just figure out how to become a better person, and then at the end of that first season to say, never mind, you've been in the bad place this whole time, we've been screwing you over, and you're just like, holy crap. Now, if Billy Summers was like that, where maybe the first 200 pages is this mundane story and then it goes insane, then that would be worth it, but definitely doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, it does not go insane. It just gets worse. Like, he was telling me, Ed was telling me every time he sits down to read it, it just gets worse and worse. I'm like, well, I'm glad I quit. I got a third of the way through it and decided, fuck this. I'm going to instead read Cass Caw's new book that's coming out, The All-Consuming World, I think it's called.
Nice.
Well, I have an arc of that. I got to get that started.
I love Cass. She is such a fucking phenomenal writer. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Matt, what about you?
I did not have as much fun as Mike had. Let's see. I finally wrapped up.
You weren't reading something that made you want to jam an ice pick in your cornea for 5 days?
No, I was not. I feel glad I wasn't. Yeah, well, we already talked about Suicide Squad. That was going to be my big one. I really enjoyed that. I did finish Beyond the Book of Ebon. It was awesome. There's some great stories in there. We're really excited to maybe cover one of them in the future once this comes out. And I'm still about 3/4 of the way through Vastarian Volume 4, Issue 1. Awesome as always. This great burglar story in there, and I don't have it in front of me to tell you the exact title, but it is so Legatian. It's like these robbers, they rob a bank, but like they're working for a company that has them rob banks, and the townspeople like are expecting this to happen. So it's this very like mundane job of them like, well, we're robbing a bank, and then like we have our temps outside making sure everyone's okay, and then they discover that the money in the bank needs to be laundered because it's brand new. And so they hired the people they're robbing they're going to pay them $14 an hour to rough up the money. And you find out they're working for these weird monster things with tentacles, and they shoot this guy, one of their employees that came up with this idea. And then the following week they do the same idea, and you find out that the reason they killed this smart burglar or smart robber was that was like, it's great he had a good idea, but they don't want people to have ideas in this job. So it was just like perfect. It's an amazing story. If you get it, read that one. But I was going to bring up, I'm out of horror right now, and I'm reading the Star Wars High Republic Light of the Jedi book. It's the first of their High Republic series, and I'm really liking it. So it's, for everyone, it's like 200 years before Phantom Menace and all that stuff, and it's supposed to be this, the Republic is just flourishing, and there's no war, and there's no fights, and the Jedi are there, and they're all like working together, and it's this like magical place. And it opens up on this ship taking a bunch of people to this outer rim planet, and there's something in hyperspace that kills them all. And this is why I'm bringing it up. It's really funny because I'm like probably about 100 pages in, and it's all just depressing stories about people dying because of this one accident. So like,
amazing.
Yeah, the opening is like you're following this captain, and she's talking to these kids, and she's like friends with everybody in it, and then they see something in hyperspace, and she's like, well, I think I can steer it. And her last thoughts before dying before this ship explodes is like, oh man, I wish those families were okay. And now this thing, the ship, there's all these parts flying, and they're flying so fast that they're just going to kill all these planets and all the people that live in the planets. And so again, you're getting all these like family stories and relationship stories, and then the chapter ends with the thing crashing through and the planet exploding. And then you find out that all those things have people in them that are falling. So I'm digging that they're going really dark really fast, because it is every chapter you're like, you have the main characters you're introduced to. So it's like Jedi, and then there's captains of ships and stuff. But otherwise you're like, oh, this couple, and they're like been really happy together, and their life is great. And then like you see this thing come crashing down onto their like city, and it just kills them all. And like this guy who wants to date somebody, and he's like, this is it, this is the time, I'm gonna ask her out. And then this piece of the ship crashes on him, and he's like, the like chapter ends like he never got a chance to talk to her.
Oh wow.
So I like wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh, it's cool, I want to read something a little goofy, so I'll read a Star Wars book. And now I'm like, whoa, they're just going for it. So that's what I've been doing this week.
Awesome. That sounds pretty great, actually.
Yeah, it's quite enjoyable.
Vitmi, what about you?
Well, since my summer vacation is over and I've gone back to work, I haven't really had that much time to read or have any more fun, for that matter. But I've started on Scott J. Moses' Hunger Pangs anthology. No, not anthology, short story collection.
Nice.
Nice.
So far, it's going good. It's got a lot of quiet horror, like grief horror, and he mentioned there are vampires in it, so I'm excited to look into that, of course. In regards to watching, there's one thing that I was watching this week, and it made me laugh so much, and it made me just so happy because it was the misdoings of an idiot. I don't know if you guys watched Top Gear. Do you guys recognize that?
Yeah. I love Top Gear, but I haven't seen the newest one.
Okay. So you guys know about Jeremy Clarkson and James May and Richard Hammond.
Yes.
Okay, these guys are my everything. They're so funny. And I noticed on Amazon Prime that they had a new series called Clarkson's Farm. In which Jeremy Clarkson, he had bought a ton of land, like way up north in England, just a long time ago, I think. And he always had this one farmer just do the thing for him. But then suddenly the farmer couldn't do it. And Jeremy, he just thought, hey, okay, then I'll just take care of the farm. How hard is that? And basically the entire series is just, showing you that farming is so fucking hard. It's so complicated, and you cannot do it alone.
This sounds amazing.
I need to check that out.
It's so funny. It's just, the first thing that he, of course, needs to do, he needs to buy, equipment for farming and stuff, and he needs a tractor and everything, and he new tractors and new shit is really expensive, so he's like, okay, I'll just buy some new stuff. And he doesn't like any of the tractors because they're small and tiny, in his words. So he bought a Lamborghini tractor.
Oh, my God.
Which is huge and so wide. And just like the first time and he goes on the field, he breaks the fence.
Oh, no.
And, of course, everything is in German because he bought it used in Germany. He doesn't know German. He's trying to work out what's happening. And there's this one guy. He hired a neighbor of his to help him out, who is a farmer, and he has experience. And it's so funny because Jeremy, I think he's going 60. And then he asked the guy, like, so how old are you? I mean, how much experience do you have? And he's like, I'm 21 and I've been farming my entire fucking life. And it's so funny because when you look at the boy, you're like, you look 35. So there's a good example of how farming will age the fuck out of you.
Right.
And it's just, he's trying to grow crops, and he decides, because he has so much land that he's going to have sheep. So he buys sheep, and he has trouble with that because he doesn't know what to do with it. And then he tries to grow vegetables and open up a farm shop, but a farm that's apparently so complicated and has so much bureaucracy, and he's like, why? And it's just so funny because he thinks everything is brilliant, all of his ideas are so good, and then when he gets like his advisor, he's like, no, it's shit, please don't do that.
Holy crap, I need to watch this.
I need to check this out.
You definitely do, because this just brought a smile on my face every single time. And afterwards, when we finish the series, there's going to be a season 2, thankfully, so we get to see more of Jeremy's mishaps in regards to farming. Because in the end, he did say that farming actually was the happiest time that he had in his life. So he's like, yeah, I definitely want to continue this.
Oh, it's awesome.
And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's so cute. It's like you saw, even though he was, hemorrhaging money out of this, he was having the time of his life, and he really loved doing it. So I'm happy that he's going to continue to try to be a farmer.
Oh, that's great.
And after I finished it, I was kind of felt empty because I wanted more of them. And I noticed they had released the second episode of the Grand Tour.
Oh yeah,
which is called Lockdown.
Oh.
So it happens, of course, during COVID, and they decide to drive from England and all the way up north to Scotland on American cars, like these kind of muscle cars. Yeah. Which is hilarious because, you know, the things that they choose, it perfectly describes each and every one of them. Yeah. You know, James picking I think it was like a really old antique car that was slower than everything. I mean, makes sense because he's Captain Slow. Yeah. And because it was COVID, they were not allowed to, you know, stay in hotels because it was lockdown. So the producers made them sleep in caravans. And they each, you know, were allowed to pick their own caravan, and they were allowed to, you know, decorate it so it would fit their cars. Oh wow! And it's just hilarious because, you know, as they're driving up to Scotland, they of course go through roads that don't have any, you know, asphalt on it. Yeah. And they're on muscle cars and they drive fast. And at just one point, you just notice Jeremy's caravan just going down the hill. Oh, no. And he doesn't realize it until he, you know, makes the turn. He's like, hang on, where's my caravan? And it's so funny. I needed that this week. Oh, and it was so good.
That sounds amazing.
So I definitely recommend. If you love those three idiots, yes, you definitely watch it. Everything is on Amazon Prime.
Awesome. I'll check those out. Real quick, just on my end, there's a comic that I've been reading that no one's really talking about, which, I don't know, I feel like horror books, like in the horror Twitter community at least, horror novels and novellas and short stories get all the love. But, like, you never see people talking too much about comics or manga.
Unless you tune in here every week.
Yeah, because I'm a fucking nerd. There's been a comic that's been coming out since June, called Red Room by Ed Piscore. And Ed is an illustrator and writer in comics. He has a YouTube channel called Cartoonist Kayfabe, where he kind of talks about comic books. That's his whole channel. And Red Room is something he started writing and illustrating during the pandemic. And it's kind of him doing homage to, like, really disgusting 80s exploitation horror, but, like, in comic book form. And the premise of the comics is each issue he's writing as a standalone story. So you can pick up issue 3 and understand everything without having read 1 or 2. But if you read all the issues, you kind of notice references here and there as like little Easter egg stuff. And the premise is there's a Red Room, which is an urban legend on the internet that you can find a website where you watch videos of people being tortured to death. And in this comic, the Red Room exists. And people access this website through Bitcoin, and they use it to, like, trade Bitcoin and donate Bitcoin, so none of the money can be traced or anything. And it follows different people and their involvement in this website, and ultimately, like, what's going to happen with this website. It is very gory. It is not for the faint of heart, but it's really like, the illustrations are fantastic. The stories are interesting. The only criticism I've seen against it is some people view it as being shallow because it seems like the gore elements kind of are on the forefront. But there's a lot of subtle things that are happening, like, in this book, or in the books where, like, if you actually, like, read the chat logs when the torture stuff is happening, there's a lot of commentary that Ed's trying to get at involving internet culture and all these things, too. But it's a more clever. It's a bit more clever than it appears on the surface if you really pay attention to it. If you're in the mood for, like, if you're a fan of, like, extreme horror, or, like, are looking for kind of like a newer horror comic to read, I highly recommend it. The first trade is going to be coming out in October. Volume 1 is going to be called Red Room, the Antisocial Network.
Isn't Twitter already the antisocial network?
You would think. And
This
then
is just the next step.
And then real quick before we dive into the story, I am halfway through Suburban Gothic by Bryan, Keene, and
Bryan Smith.
Bryan Smith. I had to think about that for a second. And this book, it's really good. It is insanely gory. Like,
Not surprising.
it is a lot more over the top than Urban Gothic was. It's not as over the top as the Freak Show was. At least
That's a relief.
Yeah.
So it feels more like a sequel to Urban Gothic than it is to the Freak Show. But
Okay.
if you have read the Freak Show, like, elements of the Freak Show are there. So the premise of Suburban Gothic is, at the end of Urban Gothic, we know the house burned down. And the family, quote unquote, the family of mutants that lived in the house, they escaped. And they found an abandoned shopping mall that they made their new home.
Now,
The shopping-
wasn't there? I'm trying to remember, and I might get it confused because there was a lot of that family, right? Because they had all those
was a lot of
caves.
the family because
Okay.
of the caves. Now they're living in an abandoned shopping mall. On the
Cool.
other end of the shopping mall, there's also the freaks from the Freak Show.
Didn't they all die? I thought that they were all gone.
No.
Maybe
No,
I
they
just
were not.
wanted them to be all gone.
Yeah, I think that was the latter.
Yeah. So they're also in the same shopping mall. And the mutants and the freaks don't like each other.
Oh, Rumble.
And they kind of stay on their own respective sides. And in comes our main characters who are YouTubers. And their YouTube channel is they go urban exploring in abandoned properties.
Nice.
Only to find out this mall isn't as abandoned as they thought it was.
Dun, dun, dun.
And at the same time, a group of people are attacked by the freaks and brought back to the mall. So now there's kind of a brawl happening between the freaks and the mutants, with these YouTubers kind of stuck in the middle.
Awesome.
It sounds pretty wild.
Yeah. I'm excited to check this out.
It is
And
a
I
lot
will-
of fun.
I will note for our listeners, in case you missed it, you can go back through the archives. We did discuss on 2 separate episodes both Bryan Keene's Urban Gothic and Bryan Smith's The Freak Show.
And there was a kill. There were 2 kills that, like, shocked me in this book so far. Like, there's one where a guy is going to protect his friend, and an axe gets thrown. And it's written as if, like, the axe hit the wall, and then you realize that his head got cut off, and it's told from his perspective as his head's falling down,
Oh,
and he
God.
sees his headless body and realizes that his head's been cut off, and then he dies.
Jeez.
So kind of like what they did in Urban Gothic with that guy that was captured and they were going to cook him.
Yeah. And then there was one where a guy gets killed via a trap where there's spikes hidden in a chair, and they push him down through the chair, and the spikes ran through his legs.
Oh,
Jeez.
Yeah, the book's wild. I'm about halfway through, and it's just ramping up at the halfway part. But
Yeah.
for the first half, it was actually pretty tame than what I was expecting it to be.
well, I'm excited to give this one a read.
It is more like Urban Gothic than it is the Freak Show, and I think it's better for that because the Freak Show was a bit too much for all of us, I think.
Yeah, I didn't care for the Freak Show. It was a little out there for me in terms of plot. Like, I couldn't spend my willing disbelief for some of the shenanigans Smith was concocting for that story. It was a little wacky for me.
Just a bit.
But this one's more along the Urban Gothic vibe.
Cool.
In case you were concerned, you can leave your worries at the door.
Okay, fair enough.
Good.
And it has the classic Bryan Keene character work as well, because he's
Nice.
really good with his character voices.
Yeah. Maybe we'll cover that on a future episode. I guess we'll see, huh?
We shall see. We did Urban Gothic and the Freak Show.
Yeah, we probably should finish that little trilogy with this, huh?
Eventually.
One day.
But I think it's time for us to enjoy a meal and get into recitation of the first feeding.
Who's hungry?
I am hungry for memories. What about you?
I'm hungry for everything. Might be the Countess, just so you know.
Just nice.
So, I've never read Hailey's short stories before, like this collection, but this story blew me the fuck away.
Oh, it
Yep.
was fantastic. It is the closing story in her collection, Unfortunate Elements of My Anatomy, and it is the perfect finisher for that collection. It's fucking fantastic.
It just it rests in your head rent free.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's okay. I'm fine with that being in my head for rent free.
Same.
I would
say, put up its feet on the table. I don't care.
I would highly recommend that our listeners check out this book and especially this story.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And Hailey's a fantastic writer too. So
Oh, yes.
You should be reading her anyway.
yeah,
Definitely.
this story. How could you describe it? It's kind of like Hellraiser meets the
Yes.
Food Network.
Well,
Yes.
Yeah,
I would-
a little bit.
I kind of, it's definitely like a Clive Barker, Neil Gaiman story.
Yeah.
I think best way to describe it, because obviously the feast, whatever, I can't remember what the group is, if they have a name for it. What was the name of the group? Did the group have a name?
The
They have a
Culinary Court.
Culinary Court.
Culinary
That's
Court,
it.
Yeah.
That was like total Clive Barker Cenobite kind of creatures and things. But then like there's the magic and just like the story itself, it felt very kind of Neil Gaiman fairy tale-esque, and even with like the grandmother telling the stories and everything like that. And so that I kind of like went through that. My mindset was like, oh, which is great, because then they're both excellent writers. So Hailey just like captured them and said, I'm going to do my own thing. Yeah. And she did it really well.
She really did. I also loved, when you saw the Culinary Court, the way she described it. It is, as like you said, it's like Cenobites really come into mind.
Yeah.
But then what makes it even more creepy is just how polite they are.
Yes.
The what was the first one? The glutton. It was just, it's described as this like maggot with thorny teeth and 6 sapphire eyes, and then suddenly when he looks at you, he says bonjour.
Yeah.
And you're like, how would you not be creeped out by that? I'd be like, no, wait, are you gonna cook me in a French way, or?
Yeah, and I think that part was definitely kind of made me think of Neil Gaiman, having these like monstrous creatures, like the starving artist has his eyes sewed shut and he's like this big skeletal creature, but the class they showed was very kind of a Neil Gaiman concept of like this, and that was, the grandmother said right from the start that this is etiquette is what keeps them like basically bound or keeps them controlled. And so yeah, I thought that was just like, it's exactly, they're so professional. They have like what was the connoisseur, I think was, no, not connoisseur, had the mouth shut. What's her name? The scholar.
Yeah.
She like had to write everything down, and they had to give their food critiques, which was, like Rich said, very Food Network.
Yeah. She's got her tasting notes for all of the past meals and whatever they're having now.
I also loved how she described it. Yeah. It's very Food Network-y, but it's not food.
Yes. So I guess we should back up. Our main character, Alex.
Yes, Alex.
Yes, Alex.
Yeah, Alex.
Is being haunted by a ghost.
A ghost girl.
Ghost girl is what it's called, and this ghost girl is stealing. Alex, I guess, is a teen. Yes, is a teen.
Yeah, she's. I thought you was
11, I
at the
thought.
beginning?
Yeah, 11, 12, something like that.
He's young. He's young. The girl is
Don't
young
don't
also.
spoil it.
Yeah, don't spoil it.
So Alex, so anyway, the ghost girl is stealing all Alex's sister's stuff, Alex's mom's stuff, like bras and lipstick and makeup, and the parents are very upset, and Alex is upset mainly because this ghost is haunting him, and so
getting him in trouble all the time because they're
exactly
finding everything hidden in his room.
And as you can imagine, he doesn't want to tell his parents that it's a ghost, but at the same time, the parents are like, well, why are you stealing all this girl stuff? So there's a lot of discussion on that.
I also liked, the discreet homophobia in the parents.
Yes.
Yes.
When they said, like, oh, I hope he doesn't like boys.
Yes.
And I was like, what's wrong with that? And okay.
Yes. And so there is this grandmother, which it's not very clear if it's actually Alex's grandmother or if it's just the grandmother of this town. And the grandmother tells stories, fairy tale type of stories. And so Alex knows of a story about the culinary court that will eat memories. And
just eat anything.
Eat anything, and they'll give you something in return. They'll do something for you. And I love the grandmother's house because it's like she lives out in the middle of nowhere, and she's got just like this junkyard kind of aesthetic of tires, and there's things all over the place. It made me think, I don't know if anyone watched Ernest Scared Stupid.
I was just going to mention that. Eartha Kitt, yes.
Oh gosh, so Eartha Kitt in that movie, her area reminded me of that a lot.
Exactly, and with her day-old lemonade.
Yes.
She's always got a sweaty pitcher of tea at the ready.
Yes.
Yep. So that's that. The grandmother tells Alex what to do about getting this court.
But she kind of warns him, though.
Yes.
He does tell him like it comes with a price. So if you are willing to do it, you have to be ready to face the consequences.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you have to be willing to keep feeding them.
Yes.
That was the big pay. That's the big thing is I keep feeding them. And so he goes, and it's, again, the etiquette, like we said, is very specific. It takes Alex like all day to get the etiquette of the plates set up properly. And then they do that. His last request of that first eating is to forget everything, forget that entire time, because I guess he wants them to eat the ghost or memory.
Yeah, he
of the
wants
ghost.
to feed them the ghost and
Or
also
dessert.
to not remember any of it.
Yeah. That's it. That's the dessert.
So that's the main setup for this, and then it goes to later time. But
yeah, so he kind of grows up and he moves on with his life, and he doesn't really remember what happened there. But throughout his years, he kind of feels like something is missing, something within him is empty, and he just knows that it has something to do with the grandmother and the court. So he decides to go back and try to retrieve what was lost.
Yes.
Because he goes back in between, because I think he moves when he's 18. He moves as far away from the town.
Yeah.
But in between that time, he's feeding bits of himself to the court. So it's like lots of memories of his dog and of school and love of parents, and all this stuff just goes away.
What I really liked was this concept that since he left, he wasn't there to keep feeding the council.
Yes.
And when he returns home, the town is just it's ruined.
Yeah, it's
Businesses
falling
are
apart.
closed. It's desolate. People are moving out. And you get this impression that since he wasn't there to feed the council has just started eating the town itself.
Yeah, they did.
And because the town is wasn't it a farm town or something?
It was a small town, it seemed like.
Yeah, I think just kind of like small town suburbia kind of deal.
Yeah, because there was something I'm trying to remember where they talk about what was it? I'll have to look because there's a comment about like, oh well, next year it lost, but better. Yeah, people are selling stuff out of town. Never mind. Maybe I'm thinking of something else with the farm, but yeah, crops were failing. There we go. Okay, it's like halfway through.
Yeah, it just abandoned farmland rolled on.
So it's like a good setup, like good because you're at first you're thinking it's possibly tied to the court, but at the same time, you know, he was like, well, they probably are done. They're not going to be there. And, it's just, you know, small town America just falling apart. And so.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely get the double meaning there.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that like his parents moved and everything like that. But the grandmother's still there, still just hanging out.
Still alive and kicking.
Yeah.
Still doing her thing.
And he's been I guess we should say too, he's been having nightmares of the ghost, and that's what's freaking him out. Is like, why is the ghost still sort of haunting me, at least in my dreams? And he has almost fiance. He has a girlfriend, which plays a part soon. But yeah, he goes back, and the court is still. He sets it up, and they come back, and this is when he enacts his final plan, which was quite genius. I was trying to figure out how he came to that conclusion.
I was too, but the way it all came about was fantastic.
I feel like it might have been like this conclusion might have been just when he decided to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess for everybody too. So now I think we're getting the spoiler because we're getting to the end. Yeah,
because here in page 211, he said, I then climbed out of bed, got dressed, and wrote her a note saying I got a call from my parents, needed to head back home and help with some things, that I hope to be back soon. And then if I didn't come back, I didn't want there to have been no goodbye. That wouldn't be fair. We were never close the same way couples became, but she was good to me, and maybe she could say the same. So kind of feel like this is where, you know, like, okay, there's gonna be no return.
Yeah, because especially doesn't he keep the letter? I feel like so he doesn't even leave it. But yeah, so there's one of these of the court is the connoisseur who has his mouth sewn shut. And so when he meets up with the court older, he kind of focuses on the connoisseur, and they reveal, I mean, I guess they've been kind of revealing through earlier, but reveal that like they eat everything. So they've eaten planets, they've eaten galaxies, they've eaten dragons and unicorns. I mean, and you can kind of, you know, obviously those are all just nightmares and or memories or whatever, but the connoisseur ate the last unicorn and doesn't love the taste so much that doesn't want to eat anything else, so it's just kept its mouth shut.
Yep.
And then so basically what happens is that he tricks them, because he keeps saying like, well, how can the connoisseur be part of this group if it's not eating?
Is it not part of the etiquette that everyone's supposed to be eating?
Yeah, exactly, the etiquette. And so he feeds them, because what he wants is that last memory back. He's like, I want to know what happened that first time. And so then he gets it, which was just, I'm trying to remember what actually that was. I'm totally blanking on what the first recitation of the last. What was it? What did they end up telling him? I'm trying to figure it out.
About the first feeding?
Yeah.
So let me get back to the page. It says here, the young summoner Alex offered our first and second courses in writing, and the last spoken aloud. Alex sat in the summoner's seat and knew not court etiquette. Being so young, we guided him in, serving us, and hoped for etiquette to sharpen over subsequent feedings. The first course was the deeds done by one that Alex called the ghost girl, Alexandra. So all our actions on her part would be annulled in the eyes of friends, family, and peers. A letter to us transcribed, cut apart, and served to the court. The gentleman considered it a slim yet enjoyably tart confection, its sauce a sweet raspberry of youthful confusion. I found its texture solemn. The second course was Alexandra herself. This came most difficult, as Alex neither prepared a symbol nor understood what this demanded. We depended upon the starvation artist's precise fingers to pry open the child's throat, from which the court pulled this avatar of inner self onto the table. Alex could not bear to serve her and spent the course shaking and weeping. As no member of the court should sully their refined hands, our good coachman helped tear Alex's manifested inner self asunder so it might be served. The gentleman described a rich, meaty meal, basted in resentment, yet strengthened by it. Earnest seasoning, drawn deep from the summoner. Rare does a summoner offer so core a piece of their insides. On this course I tasted confusion peppered with longing. For the third and final course, the memory of the first 2 courses was taken from the summoner. This required the glutton to go on eating memory until the rest of us were finished, so that every piece pertaining to the meal itself was gone, per the summoner's request. The gentleman found it anticlimactic, with too much of the previous dish's flavors to have unique appeal, yet still worthwhile for the creamy remorse as its center. And I agree, this was the most savory point yet, did not agree on it being anticlimactic. This course held the only awareness of what the summoner had done, and its ramifications wrought upon the rest of the summoner's life.
Okay, so that was it. It was the remorse.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's yes. Okay. I was trying to remember what that was, and that's yes. So the remorse. Sorry, go on. No, go ahead.
We always do this.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I loved how she painted this picture of this, manifested inner self, and she said she tasted confusion peppered with longing. Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't describe, this kind of transformation that trans people go through,
yeah,
I don't know what is.
Yeah, I thought that was perfect because the ghost girl, for anyone who did not figure it out yet, was inside of Alex or Alexandra from the beginning. That was we skipped over that part at the very beginning when they meet, when Alex meets the culinary court. They call her Alexandra, and she's like, no, my name's Alex. But now she realizes now that, like, oh no, that was me that I just gave up, and this is why I've been feeling hollow the whole time. I mean, it was awesome. It was a great way to describe this.
It was really good.
Yeah. It was handled much better than we're describing.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better, yes.
But Alex summoned the council essentially to sacrifice a piece of themselves. Yes. And to kill this part of, he wanted to destroy the feminine side.
Because he wanted, in essence, he just wanted to fit in with, the society which he grew up in with, his family, circumstantial being, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, this feminine side, it's constantly earning them shame from family, from friends. So they're like, okay, I'm a boy, let's just be a boy. And they summon this council and sacrifice this part of themselves and kill it and close it off, and they want to forget about it. And then as they grow older and become involved with this girl, May, and leaves the note that they're leaving and going back home, it's because they understand with that maturity that May deserves better than somebody who's only going to be half of a person, who isn't going to be able to be their full selves with her. Yeah. And who is incapable of making decisions, let alone carrying through a life with her.
Exactly.
And I think what's interesting is that, maybe we'll disagree a little on that point, is I don't think Alex sort of knew it at that age, but didn't fully. And I think that's why he needed to remember that remorse. Because you think about, like, and I think you had said kind of near the beginning, Mike, where Alex just didn't want to get in trouble. Think about being 11 years old and trying to figure out your self-identity. Exactly.
All these different things you're feeling. There's a hell of a lot of confusion. I mean, even just
not getting the right kind of support from the family is it makes it even worse for a child at that age.
Exactly, because there's even a point when Alex is describing the ghost stealing the stuff and says, like, sometimes and I'm just paraphrasing, but basically sometimes it feels like Alex is actually going to steal this stuff and feels like a puppet. And then at other times the ghost is doing it. And I think that's an interesting coming now when you're at the end and you look back and you're like realizing like he's doing it himself, but he's kind of finding this ghost to kind of use as like a thing,
as a reason, but
as
like a scapegoat.
Yes, exactly. And so like I thought that was done really well because you're like exactly like everyone's saying, it was like very confused and not sure of yourself at 11 and being able to make these kind of decisions. But so at first it makes sense. Oh, this ghost is haunting me. I just want to get rid of this ghost, but I don't want to remember this because this is horrifying. But now older, you're realizing like, especially the description too of all the other stuff that he gave up just shows like that tough time period. I mean, between 11 and when he left, and just like giving up all these memories because you just, one, you have to, but two, shows like he's not a whole person. He's just doesn't want to remember any of this stuff.
Well, that whole description of how they have to remove the girl.
Yes.
How the fuck? Why would you want to remember that? That was fucking horrifying.
Exactly.
Experience, let alone have to remember and carry that for the rest of your life.
Yes.
I mean, that's going to be some serious issues keeping that part of your brain intact.
Yeah. Well, and I love too how Hailey does that because you see it later. Like at first it's just, if I remember correctly, it's them, Alex basically saying like, I want to give you these things. Wait, I'm trying to remember if he does show it. Yeah, it gives them the paper and then tells them the third one. And then it just sort of cuts. And then you find out later, like how, especially with the third one, with the third request, like they had to get into his throat and like take it out. And then like, so I just thought I liked that because it played with your imagination and then showed you how horrifying it all was. And I was just like, oh, this is perfect.
Especially because this kind of feels like, it fits because it's seen through the eyes of a child.
Yeah.
Like at that time. So it's like, you know it's not going to be like vivid graphic descriptions, but it's enough to feed your, imagination.
I like, too, the way that Hailey played with expectations going into the end game with this.
Yeah.
When Alex is leaving this note for May, like when I was going through Alex's description about how May deserved better and how he had long ago fed the best part of himself to these fiends, there was this faint whiff of suicide about what he was planning that I thought, there's going to be some self-immolation coming up in the end here. They're just going to confront this council in order to destroy themselves. But
yeah, because that's set up too. I guess we should have said if you can't feed them, they'll eat you, and that's kind of the ultimate, genie's curse. That's like the fairy tale curse of be careful what you wish for.
It leads into a really neat loophole of the council.
I love how she managed to do it so discreetly. It's like, when they were eating the first course, which was, his pride, or was it second course, the love?
One was the phone. One was the phone of his like a message or text from his dad.
Yep.
And then one was the wedding ring. It was going to be the engagement ring.
So I thought it was really fun, interesting to see, like, while the Colonel Kurt was, feasting on this, he kept looking at the connoisseur and be like, why isn't he eating?
Yes.
Don't you want to try this? I mean, I'm giving you really, really nice stuff to eat. Why won't you eat it? And you were like, wait, why isn't he eating?
I know. Which again, it's just like so like I did not expect that to happen.
No, I thought it was a really brilliant part on Alex just to do that. Like, I present you him, and you're like, wait, what? Huh?
I also loved, like, after they eat him, they're like, we should revise the rules to make it so this doesn't happen again.
But they did it in such a polite way. They're like, oh yeah, so for next time, let's revise it so there won't be any squabble between us.
Yes. Well, and that's what he figures, or she figures out at that point, is she's like, well, one, they really want that unicorn taste because he's holding it, and then two, there's like a scene where the two of them start arguing, and that's when it sort of clicks, like, oh, they're only together because of etiquette. They would have eaten each other by now.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like this guy has his mouth sewn shut. Well, how can you be a part of the culinary council if you never eat?
Yeah.
Yep. I like how they kind of tie themselves to mythology too, where it's like the Feast of the Last Unicorn.
Yes.
And like kind of like all these like legends maybe existed once, but the culinary court had consumed them.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
And I also like how Alex becomes the Countess at the end.
Yes.
That transformation was so beautifully written.
Yes, it was.
You just felt so happy for her in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a bittersweet ending, of course, because she would never be able to go back into her normal life. But at the same time, like you have yourself again.
Yes, exactly. And
she's ascended to a much higher plane than she would have otherwise. She's become a goddess in this transformation.
Yeah. And she's also, I think she also managed to. I think part of her plan might have been also, just to make sure that this wouldn't happen again, like just so another troubled soul wouldn't go through this like her.
Yeah, I was trying to. It's interesting because it did seem like that, but then like she's kind of like, well, I probably will still have to eat.
Yeah. I mean, she was a realist at the same time. Like, I mean, at some point I might have to eat because I don't want to end up like a connoisseur.
Right.
But there is that neat level of subversion that she's joining this group to kind of undermine it in the end.
Yes.
Depending on what the nature of the request is, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was great when she like slices open the Countess's mouth and then not the Countess, the connoisseur's mouth, and then cuts the tongue out at the same time. It was just like, dang. Totally unexpected. I was like, what is happening?
I just like the last part of the story, I think it really ended the story with a bang.
Yeah.
Like, but if our summoners only served misery, eventually I will have to eat. As time stretched onwards and mortal lives became fragments against the breath of my immortality, I couldn't be certain I would care about them forever. They might come to hate me. And unlike when I conjured up my ghost girl, I didn't mind that threat of hate. I would devour hatred merrily and lick its juices from my sweet lips. I just like... I was like, bravo, that was amazing.
That's a great ending.
It's a really great... I think it also is a subtle message from Hailey herself. Like, I can definitely see that she'd be like, kiss my ass.
Yeah. Well, and I love, too, like, they're so... Again, I think it's part of that etiquette or something where after she turns into the Countess, they just welcome her in line. They get her into the carriage, and they're all sitting together, and it's just this like so normal thing of like, well, this is what we're gonna do, and we're gotta go to the next one because people keep calling us.
Mm-hmm.
And the one guy kind of becomes her mentor at the end. We get this idea that he's like leading her along, and he's going to teach her about the court and what they do and how they operate.
Oh yes, the gentleman.
Yeah.
Well, and he kind of threatens her. He's like, "You're gonna probably have to eat."
Yeah.
His little shark teeth. I also loved, and it's such a small little line, but just the fact that the starvation artist is crouched by the window, so he doesn't even have a chair. It's such like a small thing, but I loved it. Just see him like peeking out over the window.
I just love that they put that he managed to put this kind of image as part of the culinary card because we're all starving artists here, so
no, this is such a great story.
Yes, it was very good. It was a fantastic end piece for this collection. I thought
I agree. One of the best short stories I've ever read.
And I mean, it's Hellraiser meets Food Network. I mean, how do you not love that?
Right.
I was just going to ask, but I answered my own question. This story was published for this collection, so it wasn't anything else.
I think everything else was a reprint, but this was original.
This and a couple others.
Yeah.
Oh, a couple others were originals too?
I see at least one, Among the Creatures of the Night.
I want to say there were 3 or 4 that were original to this. Elf Bride, looking at the publication history, Elf Bride is original to this collection, along with
Among the Creatures of the Night and the Recitation. Yeah,
Recitation of the first thing. Yep, 3. We got 3.
Hey-o!
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I definitely recommend everyone should just read her entire collection because there are a lot of gold nuggets there.
Oh, yeah.
But the biggest piece is this one.
Yeah.
They should just read all her books, too. Like, I haven't read Benny Rose yet, but, like,
Me
what
neither.
was it? The Possession of Natalie Grace?
Glasgow. Oh, my God. It was so good.
That's a great, like, possession story.
Yes.
And then on Abyss, we covered the Wormendus Kings.
Yep.
And that's a fantastic novella. Like, I'm excited to see what she's coming out with next.
I'm excited.
So goddamn ready for Queen of Teeth.
Yes.
Yes.
Me too. I'm so excited about that one.
Soon. I would say it's soon, right?
It's like, going to be out soon.
I think the paperback is out right now as we're recording this, and the Kindle edition comes out September 1st.
Yes, I do believe that's correct.
So
perfect.
I'm ready.
I'm so ready for more Hailey Piper. Like, give me more.
I'm ready too.
Yes, definitely.
And I really encourage our audience to check her stuff out because it's seriously some of the best. She's one of the best newer voices in horror right now.
100%.
Yeah.
So agree.
And then I'd say I'm interested to hear for our story next week as well.
What's our story for next?
Which we'll be discussing. I mean, I figure we can go on what we suggest in our Discord, the Astrum.
Oh, yeah.
By Sean M. Thompson.
Yes.
Yeah, let's discuss Astrum by Sean M. Thompson next week. It's a quick little 40-page novella. And
I'm glad we ironed this out before. Join us next week when we discuss. Wait, what are we discussing next week?
Improv, dude.
Hey, it works. I'll remember this time too.
Yes, you're not gonna read the wrong thing now.
That was hilarious, though.
Oh my God.
Rushing the day before to hurry up and read the right book.
Good planning on my part.
Nobody bothered me. I need 8 hours.
Yeah.
Back off, really people. Funny though.
All for fun.
All for fun. Also, I want to say that our listeners need to get on those Apple Podcast reviews. We got to get our review score up.
Yeah.
Got to spread that abyss around to get us in the algorithms so we can consume everything around us.
Yes.
Yes.
And
the abyss is hungry.
It is hungry. And Mike, where can our listeners get in touch with you?
They can find me on Twitter at MikeH5856 or hop onto Amazon, look me up, and buy some books. If you are looking for another horror story meets Food Network, you can check out my cosmic horror story, Consumption, which is much more graphic and far less subtle than Hailey's wonderful story. But I'm going to plug it because that whole cosmic horror meets Food Network thing is definitely my jam.
Consumption's a wild story.
I like it.
I like
my
it.
favorite pieces.
It's a lot of fun. Matt, where can listeners get in touch with you?
I am on Twitter at BrandenburgDM.
And Vietname?
I am on Twitter at VitlemayS, and you can also find my website, VitlemayMissedAuthor.com, and you can also check out my latest book review of Unfortunate Elements of My Anatomy on my BookTube channel, famed Pipsqueak Reads.
Awesome. And you can follow me at Twitter at Rudy53088, and be sure to check out my reviews on DivinationHollowReviews.com. And this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.
What if a storytelling podcast could be an interactive experience? Hi, I'm Mariah Powell, amateur author and creator of Hobbies Include Writing, and I'm openly inviting your opinions on stories I haven't finished writing yet. Launching with my original audio novel, Blood That Binds, visit hobbiesinclude-writing.weebly.com for more about the show and look for it on a podcasting platform near you.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.